We're back.
No, I mean, we're not back because I deleted that first part that we recorded. So we're here.
We're back.
We're back for episode 13. Hey, what's up? How's it going? This is the Little Giants podcast. I'm Joey Riccatoni.
I'm Elric, no last name, kind of like Prince.
That's his last name.
One. It's Greek.
No vowels.
Yeah, no vowels.
It's actually more Polish than anything, but enough about this sausage. Oh. Polish boy.
Is that the sting?
No. I don't. That's what I mean. I don't know if I'm going to do this thing anymore. Cause it's
I thought it was funny. It's just too manufactured.
But I think that's what makes it funny.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. Maybe I'll, I don't know.
This could just be one really long sting.
Sting.
Introducing the Little Giants Podcast, brought to you by Highlight Hub,
Hosted by Elric Allison.
and Joey Riccatoni.
And then right there.
Yeah, right there.
Drops back to pass.
All right.
Every breath you take. It's just going to cut to that. That'll be the sting.
Anyways,
Woo!
we're back. We're upset. We're sad.
Things are great, though. You know, we're getting into the lockdown situation again. I'm sure everyone else is that's listening abroad. It sucks. You just gotta keep a positive toot and friggin' make the most of it.
We're happy guys.
We're real happy. We're real happy.
Happy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're not like legit lockdown because we're still hanging out, right?
No,
That's a good thing.
we're not hanging out.
I mean, right now we're physically.
This is purely for business.
Right, exactly. This is essential. We're essential.
We are essential workers bringing you hard-hitting facts,
more facts than the
hot takes,
hot button issues,
hot button issues,
hot takes.
and mediocre parlay picks.
Speaking of which, it was an interesting weekend. Some surprises, some more Jekyll and Hyde-ness from some teams that we're going to touch on. So yeah, for what we got on the agenda today, we're going to be going picks. We're going to be talking about some of the games more specifically. So a little bit of news here and there. A little segment called "Who Will Win the the NFC East," because that's its own.
AFC East or NFC East?
I meant that's kind of, we could actually do both.
Yeah.
But I meant to write the NFC East because that is a joke division, but people are starting to make their way through. And then new segment we got. This guy came up with it.
The Crystal Ball.
Ooh, yes, because everyone who uses those are Eastern European.
Correct.
So
So if you add up our picks for this week, we were perfect. Because I had 5 right and you had 7 right.
and we all know 5 and 7 is 12.
Well, let me just get my calculator.
I wish I had
here.
my calculator watch. I left it in the other room.
That would have been a good, prop bit.
Yeah, a little contrived.
Or,
but
Carrot Top.
yeah, he sucks.
I've never actually seen a single, act of his. I just know that he's not funny.
Yeah. Anyone with hair that red. Ooh.
Ooh. Okay,
Sorry.
riff for a bit. I'm chewing gum and I don't want to get yelled at again.
All right. I'm Cal Rifkin Jr. and I'm a ball player. Basically, what we're trying to go for moving forward is more serious and all right, you're back.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
I just said nothing.
We're going for a serious thing? I can do that.
No, we're not. Absolutely not. So, picks this week. Basically, when we're reflecting our scores, which you can see on the website, we're going based off of the point spread odds that were there
On Friday.
Before the games, because they're obviously different. So, for example, when we picked the Browns game, the line was -3 for the Browns. It ended up by kickoff being -4. So, we're not going off that. We're going off the Friday odds. You can always lock your picks in early, so do that if you're actually putting money on it. But let's go through just broadly. I went 7 for 12.
I had a tough week. I went 5 for 12.
5 for 12. So, I mean, that's still pretty decent. You know, you pick 3 games right. You're winning a decent chunk of change if you're putting actual money down.
Is that still a profit?
Oh no, not if you pick 12 games. But I'm saying if you picked just 3, you got 5 right. So if you picked 3 of the 5 you got right, you could have won a little something there. But what was your biggest surprise, do you think, in terms of point spread picks? One of the big ones was, I mean, with the Browns and it being -4, Nick Chubb with that long run down the sideline.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are mad at him. Imagine you had like 11 of 12.
Yeah, dude, imagine the amount of money that was flipped to Vegas on those odds. Like that, you're literally talking probably hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah,
shifted off of a 1 yard little step
and Nick Chubb, we demand you reimburse all gamblers out of your own pocket.
Yeah, dude. No, I love Nick Chubb.
Or we're gonna send Cody after you.
He is a barrel-chested white glob.
A barrel-chested albino gorilla.
Yeah, he is a thumb with biceps. That's my little brother. Thanks for watching, bud.
He's not watching.
No, he said he actually enjoyed the show last time, so I think he actually is watching.
There you go.
No.
All right, let's talk about the Browns game.
Browns, man. I mean, not much to say. It was a very low-scoring affair. Baker looked good early on. The conditions in Cleveland have been awful. The past 2 home games they've had, they've been like hurricane-force winds, so they're just showing that they're a team that when they have home field advantage and just regardless of the conditions in the AFC North, they're going to come out and they can win because they can pound the rock.
That's an AFC North win right there. A 10-7 win where you have 2 guys going for over 100 yards.
Yeah.
That's an AFC North win. And so I think that's Cleveland's identity, and they just need to run with that.
Right. And their defense looked a lot better in general, too. Myles Garrett had a great game, and Larry Ogunjobi, their defensive tackle, really stepped up. He'd been kind of quiet. I think he's been dealing with some injury issues, but he's really, really turned up that game. And B.J. Goodson, the linebacker, had a solid game. Mac Wilson is starting to get a lot better as he recovers from his injury. But I think the biggest thing is Wyatt Teller, their guard, coming back into the game. Yeah. That completely changes the face of their game, and it creates so many cutback lanes with the vertical push they get downfield.
Yeah, he's a monster. He's like one of those, like, not quite Quentin Nelson, but like just like a notch below that level of guard. Right.
Well, I mean, in terms of PFF grade, Pro Football Focus gradings, he's actually the highest graded guard in terms of games he's played before he got injured 5 weeks ago.
Right.
I think it was right after the Dallas game. He was the number 1 rated offensive lineman in the league. So that is a huge gain for him to be back, and it makes their offense so much more comfortable, and also with their pass pro too.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes Baker so much more comfortable back there. Baker looked really good. I think he's doing exactly what he needs to win the game. And Rashard Higgins looked great again.
Yeah.
It was I think Baker only passed for 132 yards, but Rashard Higgins was the...
But if you have over 200 yards rushing, you can get away with that.
100%.
You know, it's all about controlling the flow of the game. Right. And that's what the Browns did throughout the whole game. Like, the scoreboard doesn't show it, but the Browns were controlling the ball, and the Texans, you know... They couldn't move the ball, so they would have short drives,
right,
and give it back to the Browns, and they'd eat up a big chunk of possession time and punt it away, and they were winning the field position game, the field position battle the whole game. So I think it was just that's the recipe that the Browns need to follow to win.
Definitely. I will say there was a little while there when Deshaun Watson hit that seam ball for their only touchdown of the game. I was getting a little bit like, okay, here comes the collapse. You could kind of smell it because they had that big unnecessary roughness penalty on Mac Wilson because he WWE double team pile drive Randall Cobb or whoever it was that caught that pass. So there was that, and then there was another thing with Jarvis Landry earlier on. He had that big catch to get them out of their zone, and then he stupid taunting call. It's you expect a guy like that to have more situational awareness.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because he's having a quiet game because they're so run heavy that he's just getting so.
But I mean, that was early in the game, so.
Right, but that still hurts. And there were some things early on in the game that really could have made them step back, like on that opening drive, the snap that got shot back. Because I think.
Well, yeah, it was too close for comfort. Like the Browns don't want to be in that situation.
No.
But I think it was important for the Browns to show that they can win in a dogfight.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's what the games are going to be later in the season and into the playoffs if they make it. They're not going to be easy games. You got to be able to win ugly and win out close games.
Right. And, transitioning now from that game to talk about that AFC wildcard race, Cleveland's kind of screwed themselves because the Raiders, that loss to the Raiders, if it comes down to that tiebreaker, dude, they are not losing right now. And Miami is on the up and up.
Yep. That 3-game win streak, they're coming for Buffalo, and Miami is building something special.
Right.
Like I've kind of taken a progressive step to jump on the bandwagon every week since Tua started, because at first I was a little skeptical. It's like, why would you go away from a guy who's won his last 2 of 3? But now that Tua's in there, that looks like a different team. The whole team looks energized. They're playing. I mean, they played the Chargers this week, so I watched them pretty closely. Tua's every bit as legit as Justin Herbert, and if he started from week 1, I think this Rookie of the Year race is really, really close.
Probably, man. Probably. Because, I mean, it's turning out to be that all 3 of those guys are legitimate franchise quarterbacks, which is when is the last time that you've seen the top 3 guys be the dudes? Because with Baker's draft class, Baker was number 1. He's kind of iffy. He's not even close to as surefire of being
as these 3 guys,
a guy who can win you games, not just manage the game and do well in the system, which Baker has become that. Who can actually put the team on their back?
I think it has to be the 2004 draft, the Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I mean, a lot of those guys, they've had...
Well, Baker's draft, you look at it, it's Baker, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, and then Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And, Lamar Jackson is the only one who's had legitimate success. Mm-hmm. And that's because he went to, by far, the best team of all 4 of those guys.
Right.
He went into a situation where they didn't even view him as a starter anytime soon, and he took over in his rookie year and then won an MVP the next year, obviously. So
right.
he's done amazing, but that team was built very well when he got there.
Definitely. But I mean, after that Monday night loss against the Patriots, we're kind of seeing more of the questions come back up. Was that Sunday night?
I think that was
Sunday night. Yeah. The Sunday night loss against the Patriots, it's something we've talked about. It's is he kind of figured out? Because I think when it comes down to it, if you're a man coverage team and you can keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket, he does not have a good enough arm and he's not accurate enough to make tight throws, especially in rough conditions like there were that night because it was raining in Foxborough. He's not the kind of guy to win you a game in the pocket. No. And he's great for what he is and the system that they're in, but... I don't think the Ravens would choose to take another guy because I think they believe he's a hard enough worker.
I don't
progress, but
I don't think they're looking at moving on from Lamar Jackson. I don't think he struggled that much where he's looked like, hey, this might not be our guy. But if they get into the playoffs this year and lay an egg again, then maybe I think that the chatter starts to come, not so much from inside the building in Baltimore, but the sports media,
right?
Like us.
We're the media.
Yeah.
But with all that being said, and with how well these quarterbacks have come, and how much more often there's a hit with young quarterbacks, it just seems like Tua's a hit, Herbert's a hit, Burrow's a hit. You're not wasting these high draft picks. If they had another guy who was in the same vein that they could get in the mid-first round,
Yeah.
Do you don't you think that the Ravens might be, if they do lay another egg, if they're like, you're a guy who can throw, you're dynamic, not as dynamic as Lamar in terms of his running
I think if
prowess.
there's some freak situation where like a top tier guy like a Trey Lance slides to like the late 20s or something like that, like Aaron Rodgers situation, then maybe you take a flyer on him.
Right.
But I can't see them being like, let's gear up and try and get a quarterback in this draft.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, I don't mean it in that sense because...
But if by some miracle, like, Justin Fields fails a drug test and slides to the bottom of the first round or something, I think they look at it.
Yeah.
I think they take a look at him.
Yeah, man. Justin Fields, to me, Trevor Lawrence is the obvious number one lock. Like, you just can't argue it. But if Trevor Lawrence wasn't in this draft, Justin Fields would be the number one guy. No doubt, in my mind. I think he's just so ultra talented. As a thrower, he's just kind of embodies what that new wave quarterback is, in the same way Justin Herbert
is mobile, big, strong
mobile
arm
playmaker. Strong arm. It's like that Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, that whole movement of quarterbacks.
I'm not quite on the Fields bandwagon yet, because I think we've talked about this off the podcast. Ohio State quarterbacks traditionally have not translated well.
Right.
And in general, Urban Meyer quarterbacks haven't translated well.
Right.
Even Alex Smith, when he first started in San Francisco, he was not playing well at all. It took him to his 7th year before he actually found an offense that fit his play style and made him look like a serviceable quarterback. And then he kind of blew up from there, and he had a few good years in Kansas City and a huge game this week against the who they play?
The Lions.
The Lions.
Yep.
Yeah. So shout out Alex Smith.
That was awesome.
God bless your comeback, man. 38 for 55, 390.
That was amazing.
That's awesome.
Really great game, and I think I think he should absolutely be the starter over Kyle Allen going forward, because I think it's just another one of those cases of the team being energized and having a real established leader behind the center.
Well, yeah, and you see a guy that worked so hard in such a brutal situation to come back and play for your team. And it's not like the Redskins are winning a Super Bowl the Washington football team. Can you bleep that?
No.
It's not like they're winning a Super Bowl. He came back because he loves football.
Yeah.
It's not like he's ring chasing or anything like that.
Definitely.
So I think it's really easy to kind of get up and stand behind that guy and be like, let's play hard.
Right. Absolutely. Speaking of quarterbacks having a big week, Tom Brady, 341, 3 touchdowns, huge game against Carolina.
Could have had 4.
Could have had 4. He missed a real big deep shot to AB early on in the game.
Speaking of AB, did you see the reports today?
With him hitting the surveillance camera or whatever? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's...
it's from October, so my gut says that Tampa Bay knew about this already.
Let's just explain for the listeners in case they're not up to date on it. There's a report that's come out that said Antonio Brown got into a dispute back in October with the security guards of the gated community that he lives in, and he vandalized a surveillance camera and threw a bike at a security officer.
Right.
Because
normal stuff.
Yeah, just something that you would regularly do if things weren't going your way.
Yeah.
We digress.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that when Tampa Bay brought him in, they knew about this.
Probably.
There's no way that you would bring in a guy with, AB, who's, been in the public eye and been so, kind of unhinged without doing your due diligence. So I don't think this is going to affect his, spot on the team. But it's just something to keep an eye on. Because obviously this weird angry streak he has is not completely gone. This was a month ago.
Right. Well, I think they're doing a good job in keeping him basically completely out of the media, because you're still not hearing much from him. He's not really going off on social media a lot. So that's probably all a part of them knowing about that. They're like, you need to be silent and comply with our terms of service in terms of you being on the team. But back to Brady, huge week. They're looking really good again. Ronald Jones had a 98-yard touchdown. Gronk scored again, making big plays. I'm super happy that more than anything, I'm really happy that Gronk's having like a big year being back. I love Gronk so much. He's just such a dude and such like a great guy for the game.
He just loves football.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing he loves. It's like...
But
yeah, I mean, the Bucs played great. I think, I like Carolina, and I think I let my emotions get into that a little too much because I thought this game was going to be a lot closer, and it really looked close at the start of the game.
It was really close early on.
But yeah, Tampa Bay is they kind of have this cyclic nature where they'll lose a game, they'll go on a win streak, and everyone's jumping back on the bandwagon, and they'll lose a game, go on a win streak, and so. I'm still like a little worried that they're going to be inconsistent when it really matters.
Right, absolutely. However, with the news of Drew Brees, he has fractured ribs and a collapsed lung. You got to hope that he comes back strong and healthy. Yeah. But you got Jameis, the W-eaten.
So what I'll say about that
starting.
Is Jameis just has to win enough games so that New Orleans finishes with either the same record as Tampa Bay or a better record. Like he doesn't need to win out.
Right.
They just need to be tied with Tampa Bay to take that division. And I think they're talking about like, I don't know, I think it's a month for Drew Brees or something like that. So
probably.
I mean, that's why you bring in Jameis Winston. He's a starter in this league. He throws a lot of picks, but like in a Sean Payton offense,
he throws a lot of picks, but he throws a lot of touchdowns and like 5,000 yards a year.
Yeah, so I think Jameis is a starter in this league, and I think this is better. This is a better team than the teams he had in Tampa.
Jameis to me is like. Also, better running back support.
And learning behind Drew Brees has probably been so huge for him.
Jameis, to me, is like Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. Kind of that combo of, like, big passing yards, big playability, but, like, gunslinger to a fault sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, that's two very all-time guys to compare someone
He's got all the talent in the world.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He has extreme arm talent. He has ability to make plays. He can he's a surprisingly good runner with the ball too when it comes down to making something happen on his feet.
Well, and it's like I've been a Jameis guy since he won the Heisman at Florida State, right? Like he's just such an exciting guy to watch. He's like must see TV because he's either going to throw an amazing touchdown pass or like the worst pick you've ever seen.
Right.
And maybe that's kind of like out of his system now, working with Drew Brees. Like maybe he's like learned how to see the game a little differently.
Right.
And if that's the case, then he's gonna get a huge contract from someone this year. And this is Jameis's chance to kind of showcase and be like, hey, like you guys all wrote me off.
Right.
But this, like, I'm still a legit quarterback.
Right. Well, honestly, if I was a coach, I would personally rather have a guy who could uncork it and had the confidence to do so. But then reel him in and be like, okay, we can throw slants all day to Michael Thomas. He's not going to have that long developing concepts like Bruce Arians, which makes guys susceptible to throwing picks.
I think it's going to be interesting to see, because last week we talked about how Sean Payton has been catering his offense to his guys.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how the offense changes now that Jameis is in the game as opposed to Drew Brees.
Definitely.
There's like exponentially more arm talent now.
100%. So, yeah, I really think they're going to reel him in a lot by, like, getting the ball into Alvin Kamara's hands quick.
Yeah.
Jet sweeps with Taysom Hill to minimize the mistakes and really set up those big plays. But when it's time for the big plays, like, they're going to make them happen because Jameis can make those throws, right? But I think he's going to reel them in with a lot of shorter, developing, quick hit stuff. Let the playmakers make plays quick with the ball.
And, like, I know this is an unlikely scenario, but what if Jameis just kills it? What if he just is lighting it up? Do you think they stick with Jameis over Drew Brees?
I don't think so, but I think then...
Or like going into next year?
Going into next year, I think then that becomes more of a conversation. You have to let you have to have the respect for Drew Brees going forward. It's not like a Drew Bledsoe thing where it's like, oh, you've gotten to a Super Bowl. It's like, no, you've given your heart and soul to New Orleans. You've won a Super Bowl. You've fought back through injury. You've gone through horrible years as a team. The symbolism that he has with the city, with Hurricane Katrina and everything, there's so much weight that I think they wouldn't be able to make that move based off of a good stretch. If this was week 2 and he killed it for 10 weeks, I think that's a different thing. But even with Teddy Bridgewater going 5-0, that wasn't enough for
that's true.
them to
and
move
it's not
on
like
from
they
them.
were losing with Drew Brees either.
Right.
It's not like they were like he was holding them back.
Right.
Much,
but I do think it is more likely that they would roll with Jameis going forward than it would with Teddy, because I think they see Jameis has a lot more potential and talent than Teddy Bridgewater did. So that's why they let him walk. They're like, you've done us good. You've had talent, but we're going to get someone else for that number 2 spot. We're going to let you do his thing. But yeah, I absolutely think and I don't think Jameis would want to leave New Orleans if they were going to give him a decent enough contract to stick around.
Even if
really
they're like
shows out.
one more year as the backup before Drew retires, and then it's your job. I think he stays then too.
Probably. I don't know what kind of contract he has.
He's on a 1 year minimum right now.
Right. So yeah, you get him to 2 year. Give him a 2 year deal. I do think if they win the Super Bowl this year, Drew's got to be done though.
I would think so.
Happen.
Yeah. Especially after this type of injury, he has 5 cracked ribs and a punctured lung. It's like
he's getting old. He's not what Tom is. He's taken a lot more damage than Tom Brady has in his career, I think.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. So make sure you guys check in Saturday morning for the preview show, and we'll be giving our picks for Famous Jameis. But let's move on to the next one.
NFC East.
Who will win the NFC East? Diddle-ding. Back a couple, many moons, I said Washington would if Alex Smith became the starter. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that now, but that's what I said back then.
I don't agree with that. I think it's gonna end up being Philly.
Really?
I do. Somehow they just oh god, that division just sucks so hard. I can't.
They're just all such underachievers. It's like,
but there's a huge lack of talent in that division too.
Definitely.
They all have one good group, but Dallas right now, their receiver group is good, but who knows who's playing quarterback, and I don't know. I just don't trust Dallas or Mike McCarthy.
About Dallas.
Pardon?
I said you don't got to worry about Dallas, even though they still could win the division.
They still could very easily win the division. They're 1 game back, 2 games back now.
Yeah.
It's Philly's the only one with a franchise, quote unquote franchise QB, and that's, well, I know we've had this discussion on the podcast before. I'm not a big Carson Wentz guy. I think he's the mope of the year.
I like him, but I think on the flip side, I think Daniel Jones, dude, I think he's a good quarterback, man.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I think Daniel Jones is a really good quarterback too, and they just beat Philly.
Yeah.
So it's not they're out of the picture either. I don't know, man. The team that wins this division might have 5 or 6 wins.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
And it's going to be a 5 or 6 win team that gets a home game in the playoffs.
Right. See, I think the Giants are going to go on a run now. I think Daniel Jones is solid. They got Sterling Shepard. They got Evan Ingram. Wayne Gallman's been a good backup for really Saquon. Good. Their O-line is decent enough. If Nate Solder was playing, because he opted out because of COVID, I mean, that would really anchor things down. But on their defense, Jabril Peppers is no slouch.
Leonard Williams is having a good year.
So, I really think, Daniel Jones, we were joking about it, saying, no guy with sleeves like that should be running that fast.
He's an athlete, man.
Dude, he's a good runner.
Yeah.
He's a dynamic dude. And there's a lot of the Eli Manning comparisons and stuff, but it's he's way...
Eli could never move like that.
And that's that next wave quarterback thing that we've been talking about. You have to have movement now.
Yeah.
He could be an RPO guy. He can extend the play with his feet. And Sterling Shepard is a dynamic enough playmaker himself. And they also have Golden Tate.
He's been, like, absent from the team, though. I think they, like, pardoned him from games, scratched him from games.
I thought he played in the last game.
Maybe he played in the last game, but I saw 2 weeks ago they didn't let him play because of his effort.
Which is surprising. But Sterling Shepard on his own and Evan Ingram, I think, are, like...
And Darius Slayton, he's a really underrated receiver. Like, I think he's from Auburn. But, like, he's been really good for that team, and him and Daniel Jones have something going. I don't know if he's healthy or not. I don't follow the Giants closely enough. Yeah. But I could definitely see the Giants making a run and winning this division. The thing is, like, it's so wide open. Like, Washington could easily still win the division. Philly, I don't know who's in first now. Is Philly still in first?
I think Philly might just be because they had an overtime
loss. Because they're 3-5-1 right now.
Or they had a tie. Yeah, they had an overtime tie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think they're just in first, but the Giants are 3-7 now.
Yeah.
So honestly, dude, I could legitimately see the Giants going to the playoffs and winning in the first round, because I think the NFC, the disparage between the top two teams and down is so much bigger. I think the AFC is way deeper this year than the other way around, because you got Tampa. Seattle's defense is trash now. We're seeing it more and more and more. Then you got the Cardinals, who are looking really, really good.
You got Bay.
Green Bay, who are Jekyll and Hyde more than anyone.
Yeah.
24-20 against Jacksonville this year. This past week. Then you have... I already mentioned the Rams, who are looking really good.
Yeah, the Rams.
But also a beatable team. Somewhat Jekyll and Hyde in themselves. And who's the other? So, yeah, Tampa, New Orleans, Drew Brees is injured. You got...
I mean, the Vikings are putting together a nice stretch, too. They've won 3 in a row now.
Right.
You know?
Also Jekyll and Hyde, though.
Yeah,
it's like they're so dependent on Dalvin Cook.
But you haven't said one team that I would pick the Giants to win over.
I just mean in terms of going on a run in the playoffs in prime time.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen, right? But it's...
You got to remember, those Giants teams that won the Super Bowl were 9-7.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't great teams themselves, and that's just kind of been the DNA of the NFC East, right? So I'm not saying that they could go on a Super Bowl run, but I could see them getting a lucky first round win somehow, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with Philly to win this division, but it's gonna be ugly, and I hate that they're allowed to even make the playoffs. They should just be revoke the NFC East.
NBA style, top 8 from each conference.
Like, no one wants to watch an NFC East team in the playoffs.
Right. I mean, I do think Daniel Jones would be kind of fun to watch in the playoffs. But, so, I'm going to go... I got the Giants winning the NFC East.
At what record?
8-8. I think they go on a run. You
think they lose one game the rest of the season?
Yeah.
They go 5-1 the rest of the season. Yeah. All right. Make sure you clip this.
That's going to be clipped.
Yeah, clip this, because I want this to be hard evidence that you're calling the Giants
last
to
time
go
you called me out on
5-1.
this, I was right on my bold predictions.
What was that?
It was the 42-36 score, and it ended up being like 38 something.
Okay, fine, but that's very different from predicting 5-1 in the next 6 weeks for the Giants. If that happens...
How many more times do they play NFC East teams?
I don't know.
Well, we should have a producer.
Riff. Yeah, Jamie, pull that up.
Riff for a second. Riff on why you think it'll be Philly.
It's just even though there's been a lot of roster turnover from their Super Bowl run, they have a coach that's been there. Mm-hmm. They have players that have been there, and I don't know. I think maybe if they can get slightly healthier, I think they're the best team. They have they're the most talented team in that division.
Definitely, but I mean they got Miles Sanders back last week. They got Lane Johnson back. They got Alshon Jeffrey back. I know they don't have Zach Ertz, but it's like, what more does Carson Wentz need to start to get it going? Dude, it's like I've gone on record saying I really believe in Carson Wentz, and I think he is.
And I've gone on record
talented.
saying I don't believe in Carson Wentz.
Right.
So like but I just think all around, other than Carson Wentz, that's a better team. They're playing so bad right now, but I think they're gonna end up winning somehow, and it'll probably be at like 7-8-1.
Right. Okay. So we got the schedule. So they're on bye this week. Then they got Cincinnati Bengals. They got the Seahawks. They got the Cardinals, the Browns, the Ravens.
That is a brutal schedule. You have them going 5-1 there.
I think they'll win Cincinnati. I think they can win Seattle.
No way.
They could totally beat Seattle.
Looking at that, they win 2 of those games.
The Browns, I'm going to say they don't win. I'm going to say that's on there.
So they're gonna go to Baltimore and beat the Ravens. They're gonna go to Seattle and beat the Seahawks.
Okay, maybe they lose 2 of those. Maybe they go 7-9.
I think the Bengals game is gonna be really close. I think they lose to the Seahawks, they lose to the Cardinals, they lose to the Browns, and they lose to the Ravens.
Okay. I'm saying 8-8. I'm sticking with it. I said it already.
All right, clip it.
But I'll also go for 7-9. Let's cap things off with our latest segment.
The Crystal Ball.
Because we all know Eastern Europeans can tell the future.
Very true.
Very true. Smart bunch of Slavs out there. So, out of the QBs of the last 4 drafts, who will win a Super Bowl first, Murloc?
Let me look at this list you got here.
So, of the last 4 drafts, and this means as a starter, Jordan Love can't win it as a backup. Some of the most noteworthy names: Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love, Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts, Drew Lock.
Well, I know you're going with Daniel Jones.
No.
Honestly,
who do you think? This is based off of their team's performance. We're not talking about you're the MVP of the game.
Right? No, I'm saying it's not going to be. I think it might be like 5 years from now, but I honestly think Tua will be the first quarterback to win. I love what they're building in Miami. Mm-hmm. I love what Brian Flores is doing. They have so much young talent.
Right.
Tua looks legit. That team is built the right way through the draft, and they've picked guys carefully.
Yeah. That
fit the culture that they're trying to build.
Right.
And so I just think what they're building is gonna result in a Super Bowl at some point, and I think Tua is gonna win the Super Bowl before any of those guys.
I mean, it's going to be tough because you also got to consider you're going against Josh Allen twice a year. They're no slouch of a team, right? You also have to be going through Patty Mahomes in the playoffs to get there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, that's why I'm saying, like, for 5 years or something like that, it's right. I mean, it could be for 10 years that Pat Mahomes is just dominating the AFC.
Right.
And it could very well be like a Tom Brady thing where, like, these poor quarterbacks never get a chance even.
Right.
Because they have to go through Kansas City.
Right, exactly. So for that reason, you're going to think I'm crazy.
Daniel Jones,
man. I think I think New York, they are just that kind of team historically where it's like they can get by with mediocrity. They can make it to a Super Bowl.
But those are Tom Coughlin teams.
Okay. Joe Judge isn't doing too bad, though.
No, he's not.
He's not doing too bad.
But they're a 3-7 team,
right?
And Tom Coughlin is like a classic, old school, hard nosed coach that like his teams were always resilient as hell. And I just don't know if this Giants team has that makeup. It's yet to be seen, obviously.
Obviously, I mean, this is the reason why I'm calling it the crystal ball. It's all yet to be seen, right? But I think with Daniel Jones, I think with the Giants in general, you're always going to have a it's not like the NFC East is like, oh, it's the NFC East, blah, blah. Like, they are historically mediocre.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the way it's been. There's been, yes, some 13-3 teams with Philly and all that, but more often than not...
Well, it's just because it's such a dogfight in that division. Like,
right.
Even when all the teams are good, they're all losing to each other.
And I think that's what gives them advantages going through the playoffs, because they're always such tight games. Like, they're playing in legitimate playoff games because they're all kind of around the same skill level more often than not. Washington is usually the worst of the bunch, but even still, they have enough talent to give some sort of a fight. Tom Brady's going to be retiring. Drew Brees is going to be retiring. Seattle has
eventually Ben Roethlisberger is going to retire, and like
I'm talking NFC. I'm talking NFC.
Oh yeah, NFC.
And with the NFC in terms of Daniel Jones, he's going to be gone. Seattle's having a lot of issues in general, so they need like a full defensive rebuild and a running back and an offensive line.
I like Chris Carson. He just can't stay healthy.
Right, that's a big issue. So you have that.
I mean, if Saquon stays healthy, Daniel Jones, Saquon, and
Sterling Shepard, Jabril Peppers, I think is one of the best safeties drafted of the last, decade. Realistic, like
he's a little bit of a tweener, and I think New York is finally using him right. And you saw in the last year with Cleveland, before they traded him for Odell, how Greg Williams started to use Jabril Peppers, and it was like, okay, this dude is legit.
Yeah, because the first crew of guys in Cleveland that had Jabril Peppers, they had him playing 25 yards back. It's like, this guy's a banger, man. Yeah. He's a borderline linebacker. He played linebacker and running back sometimes at Michigan. Keep this guy closer to the box. Let him be run support and let him make plays, man. Like, so I think he's a straight up dog, and he's turned into a captain for that defense too. So I think when you see those kind of things where ultra talented dudes are taking those leadership roles, and you're seeing Daniel Jones also start to make those progression steps, that goes a really long way. I would say Kyler in Arizona would be my second closest. And I think the thing with Tua, the only thing that makes me a little skeptical is like the Miami thing. Something about Miami with like the Florida teams and all that, I feel like they have like a really tough time making it through.
I mean, yeah, if you have to go to a cold weather city for a playoff game, it's going to be tough, but I just think, and I'm not saying anytime soon, like it's going to be at least like 5 years into his career, at least. But I just,
the ball.
I think what they're building in Miami is conducive towards success. I think it's going to, I think they're building that team the right way. You don't build teams through free agency. You build them through the draft, and you pick guys based on character. Like, they're not going for like freak athletes. They're going for guys who have their head on straight, who love football, and who are going to come in and work hard.
Definitely. I mean, that's the New England way. That's the Pittsburgh way for the most part. I mean, Le'Veon Bell and AB haven't reflected.
But even then, those guys were not first-round picks. They only became... Their egos became inflated when they started being really good.
Right.
But they came in and they worked hard.
Definitely. And it's like, you don't realize that you're benefiting off of an always great defense, B, a great O-line with one of the best centers in the league, an Hall of Fame quarterback,
and a Hall of Fame coach.
100%.
Like Mike Tomlin, you can't understate the fact that they've had stability at the head coach position for 15 years.
Dude, Mike Tomlin is the third coach that the Steelers have had since the 70s.
Yeah.
Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. That is insane.
Browns have had 3 head coaches this year.
No, I mean, Stefanski, you gotta love that guy. I think they're finally on the right path. Let's not get into that, though. But that shows that it starts from the top.
Yeah.
The ownership in
Rooneys.
Pittsburgh, the Rooneys, the Crafts, New England, Pittsburgh, those kind of owners are so properly involved and know how to delegate and relieve power in a way that a guy like Jerry Jones doesn't, who's so involved and wants to be the poster boy for the team's success.
Well, and he's like so hands-on that he's pretty much he is the GM, is he not?
He's making
his
draft
son
picks
is the
from
GM.
his yacht this year during quarantine. But you see that versus how they operate, where it's like, I trust you to make the decisions. I put my faith in you.
Yeah.
I'm going to let go and not impede it, because it's like the Cowboys had Jimmy Johnson. We won 2 Super Bowls for them. And then he got booted.
Because he butted heads with Jerry Jones.
Because he butted Jerry Jones. Because he did know better, but Jerry Jones didn't want to hear that, right?
Yeah.
So I think, just to re-loop this back, I think Miami definitely on the right track. They got to keep what they're doing there.
And Tua has that championship pedigree. He knows how to win.
Definitely.
He comes from a winning program.
Definitely. But with the Giants, why I'm good with them with my pick is because they, like, you'll hear Belichick talk, like, when he's mic'd up and stuff pregame, he's like, there's still guys in the front office that were here when they beat the Bills in the Super Bowl in the 80s, you know?
Yeah.
So it's such a long lineage of consistency and success that I think that bleeds over into the next generation. And it was shown with the Eli Manning thing. It was like when Eli got pulled with, what's his name?
Geno Smith.
Yeah, but who's the coach?
McAdoo.
McApoo. They were like so upset basically with McAdoo, like the ownership and all that, because it was like, we have respect for the Manning family because we do things the right way here. This isn't like this circus where you're gonna have us in the headlines.
Yeah.
For the Giants being like the Giants, New York City, Broadway, blah, blah, blah. They're a generally quiet franchise, right?
For sure.
Historically respected, not like the Jets where it's like...
They're not a flashy... They've never been really a flashy team. Like, Odell was a flashy player, but they're always just like a... You know, max out at like scoring 24 points.
Right.
You know,
and
they're
play
not
great defense.
Yeah.
So that's I think just when I see Daniel Jones, like, I'm comfortable with this because I see Phil Simms and I see Eli Manning.
Yeah.
And that wins Super Bowls, right?
For sure. I mean, I think the Giants do have a bright future, but I like my pick. I think Tua's going to win a Super Bowl before Daniel Jones.
All right.
Check in 10 years. See who was right.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
New York versus Miami.
That would be sick.
That'd be crazy. We'd have to live stream that one.
Yeah.
But we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening.
That's the show.
Check out highlighthubfootball.wordpress.com.
Sound more upset when you say that,
I'm
though.
sad.
Sound more like a mope. Please.
I am a mope. But we got a lot of cool things coming down the pipe. If you are a college or university athlete, or you're a high school player going into university, stick around, keep listening. We got a lot of cool things, some resources, some things that we want to share. That's the way we want to shift. Not so much this podcast, but Highlight Hub in general. We want to become a resource for athletes. So we have a lot of cool things coming down the pipe. So share it with your friends.
I'll talk about some training physiology.
Cardiology, all the sort of thing. Meal plans. How to be an effective student athlete. Things like leadership skills, Urban Meyer. But those are the...
And for the second hour of the podcast,
we'll be reading from Above the Line, Chapter 3, Creating a Culture.
I mean, that is what we were just talking about, pretty much.
It is. But yeah, those are the things that we really want to get into. And as NFL ends, we're going to be talking a little bit more about those things. So it'll be cool. Stick around, and thanks for listening.
Scouts honor.
Signing off.
That's how winning is done. That's why we lift all them weights. It's a game of inches, gentlemen. Respect is earned. Left side. The Little Giant. Your team sucks, see?